Okay, just a couple slides, and then finally, today you get first quarter paper stuff to start thinking about, just to add on to everything else you have to take care of in here. But you should have a pretty decent amount of time in class today to start, really getting her into gear as far as 2 keys are due Friday, beginning of the hour, whatever hour you have Friday, that's when it's due. A paragraph is due tomorrow, and I say due with rock and roll quotes. Just make it a good faith effort, right? We're going to think about that, and then starting to think about first quarter paper. All right, here we go. Right. Has anyone ever heard of the Reformation? It sounds familiar. This thing called the Reformation. Do you know anything about it?
It was when people broke away from the church.
Very good. All right. Anything else? Yes?
Is that when King Henry also into one of the churches and destroyed it?
Who?
King Henry VIII.
That was a little bit prior.
Okay.
It sort of led to that. Okay. So when Omri broke away, creating the Anglican Church, what the Catholic Church did, what Pope did, was say, "Gee, maybe we should change a little. We don't want to be losing people." But that didn't work. That led to more people breaking away. Anybody in here Lutheran? Anyone in here Protestant? Anyone in here Christian, but you're not Catholic? Then you are the what are you, if you don't mind my asking?
I'm like non.
Non-name real Christian. Okay. You are the product of the Reformation, the Protestant Reformation. So, hey, Lutherans, meet your guy. Martin Luther King Jr. No, this is Martin Luther. Martin Luther. He was a Catholic priest, and he had a lot of problems with the Catholic Church. He believed it was too much about profit. Did you know back in his time, Columbus is alive. Well, Columbus had died by this time, but this is right around when Columbus is crossing the Atlantic. Meanwhile, this guy is writing 95 complaints about the Catholic Church. For example, did you know that at this time, you could buy years off burning in hell? So if you gave money to the church, the priest would forgive years of you burning in hell. So what Martin Luther said was, wait, that doesn't make sense, because that means hell is full of poor people and heaven's full of rich people. That makes no sense. And he listed other things that he was complaining about. And what it ended up happening was he led a breakaway and created the Lutheran Church after him. So again, the Catholic Church becomes weaker. But you might think, yes, so this isn't a history class about religions. But what matters is this leads to nations becoming stronger. As the Catholic Church decreases in importance, nations emerge as the thing you're loyal to. You're not loyal to Pope anymore. You're loyal to King or whoever your leader is, right? I don't think any of you in here are Calvinists anymore. That's sort of gone away. But back at this time, this guy was a bigwig, and apparently he's a wizard. John Calvin starts this thing called Calvinism. Anyone want to take a shot except him about his belief in this thing called predestination? I said except him.
Oh, I was writing it.
Predestination. When Darth Vader says to Luke, "Luke, you can destroy the Emperor. It is your destiny." What does that mean? It is your destiny? Does he mean it's your fish? It's your dog? It's the meal you're going to have tonight? It's the set of clothing you're going to wear tomorrow? What is destiny? What is your destiny? How many of you have thought about your future? What you want to be someday? Where you want to live someday? As in not here. Maybe. Okay. What's your destiny? What is it? Have someone verbalize it for me. Or is it one of these Captain Obvious? We all know what it is, so why are we wasting time here? Come on, anyone not named Ridley. He's like Hermione.
Yes.
And I mean that in a good way.
Oh, okay.
And Professor Snape is ignoring her. Okay, Ridley. God, he wins.
Predestination is.
No. What's your destiny?
Destiny is what you fulfill. Your
Yes.
life journey leads up to
Very good.
this.
All right. It's your future. It's your intended future that you intend to fulfill. Some of you have a destiny that you're going to be in college. That's your destiny. That's where you're going to be going. Predestination. Huh. It's where you're going before. Now, that doesn't make sense. Anyone want to take a shot? Not Ridley? What if you're wrong? What if you raise your hand and I call on you and you say something wrong? Will you be okay? Yes. Come on now, as the lion says in Wizard of Oz. Yes.
Like, before you even had anything in your life, you would go to this person.
Very good. That's exactly right. I will repeat that. Predestination is the belief that when God made you, he already decided if you were going to go to heaven or hell, no matter what. It doesn't matter what you do. You could stab everyone with scissors. But if God had already decided that you were going to heaven, you were going to heaven. God had already decided that you were going to hell, you'd be going to hell. So it doesn't matter what you do in life. And he taught that. And people believed it. People believed it. It just strikes, I don't know what your religious beliefs are, but it just strikes me that's an incredibly depressing thing to believe. That it doesn't matter what I do. God already knows. Wow, yuck. But anyway, so he breaks away from the church. Here's another group. Don't look at the words, just look at the picture. Who are they? Who are they? Pilgrims. The pilgrims, kind of. Step number one, everyone's Catholic in Europe, except the Jews. Step number two, the Anglicans break away. So at the heading, Catholics. And now over here we have the Anglicans. They break away. Meanwhile, they're still Catholics. But let's go over here to the Anglicans. A group breaks away from the Anglicans. So they're called the Puritans. The Puritans are the people that broke away from the people that broke away from the Catholic Church. They're the people that broke away from the people that broke away from the people. They called themselves Puritans. They believed that the Anglicans had lost their way and become greedy and shallow and all this stuff, but they were pure. They were Puritan. So they're still Anglican in their eyes. They just wanted to improve the Anglican Church. And then we had a group of Puritans who separated from the Puritans. So anyone want to make that sentence? Separatists were, yep, you. Separatists were, finish the sentence. The people who broke away.
From the people who broke away from the Catholic Church.
Oh, you missed one.
I did.
Yeah. Separatists were the people who broke away from the people who broke away. Wait, I'm lost here. They broke away from them, who broke away from them, who broke away from them.
So how many breakaways?
Yeah, right. Let's see here. All right, so you had, yes, Catholics, and then you had the Church of England, and then you had the Puritans, and then you have the Separatists. So that meant you still have the Catholics.
Hey,
And then-
Potter, are we missing 3 weeks of school?
Exactly. Where'd that come from? Yeah, Separatists were the people who broke away from the people who broke away from the people who broke away from the Catholic Church. There we go.
Yeah, it's 4 generations.
One, two, three, four. 4 degrees of separation. Or is it 3 degrees of separation? It would be 3 degrees of separation because the first separation would be 1 degree of separation. 1, 2, 3. 3 degrees of separation. Separatists. Okay? Guess where they went? Come on. Come on. Here's a clue.
Turkey land.
Exactly. They went to Turkey land, right? They went to the country named Turkey. Turkey? Turkey! Turkey? Turkey! I'll show you what I'm talking about later. Okay, so separatists. These are the pilgrims. That's them, right? Okay. And then you have this feller. He becomes king of England. So he's the grandson of George, or no, not all right, or something like that. Okay. And he had very little tolerance. He actually persecuted. Persecuted doesn't necessarily mean executed. That execution is a form of persecution, but it is not the only form of persecution. You might have your taxes higher. You might be jailed. You might be tortured, imprisoned for a while, maybe executed. All of this leads to different groups being created in Europe. And for our purposes, we're interested in this group. That's the group we're interested in. You know why? This is the group that ends up in America. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, all this other stuff is fairly interesting, but that's the group we're going to kind of follow. Any questions there?
They didn't go to Turkey.
Oh, that was a joke. They did not go to Turkey. They hit Plymouth Rock, 1620, which, by the way, didn't happen. Right? You don't land a huge ship like that on shore. It stays about 100 yards offshore, and then you row little boats in, little dinghies.
You could just swim in.
Yes, you could, but the sharks. Anyway, the fable is they hit Plymouth Rock, right, 1620, and then the Indians fed them corn and turkey and all that stuff. Okay.
Is that where the
Was that-
turkey came from?
Wait, was that before or after the winter that basically killed off?
Right around the same time, actually.
Oh, okay. It was good.
Okay, so let's take a look at the journey of the separatists known as the Pilgrims. So here they are in England, and their first move was they actually went to Holland. What's another name for Holland? The Netherlands. How many of you think that's weird? Weird that one country has two names.
No.
You live in a country that has two names. There's this thing called America, and then there's this thing called the United States. Two names, one country. So Holland and Netherlands, same thing. Here's what makes it really weird. The people who live in Holland are called the Dutch. So figure that out. The people are called Dutch. They live in the Netherlands, and Holland is in there somehow. Okay, that's where they went first. You know the problem? What's the problem with these people living in Holland or the Netherlands? They speak funny. I mean that. They did not like the way the Dutch spoke. They didn't speak English. They didn't speak English. So they had an idea. Why go to a place where we will be the minority? Why don't we go where we can be the majority? Where we can enforce our wishes upon others? Let's go to America. Let's start our own colony. The Catholics have their colony, Maryland. That means that the British Crown would grant a charter, probably, even though we have religious beliefs that go counter to the Church of England. The precedent has been set that the English Crown will allow people of other religions to go and set up a colony. So let's give it a shot. And they land here at, this is a fairly modern. Keep in mind that I'm showing you a map which apparently has the cities of Boston and Springfield. These things don't exist yet. It's just I'm showing you perspective. That's about where the Pilgrims land, and apparently there was a big rock there. 1620, Plymouth Rock. When I say that, does this sound familiar to some of you? When I say Plymouth Rock, do some of you Plymouth Rock, I know what that is. It was a rock that they hit, apparently. What was wrong with the person saying, row, look out? And anyway, they founded a city called, a settlement called Jamestown, named after a guy named Town. Good, right. No, James! James was, that joke never gets old. On the boat. By the way, what was the boat called? The Mayflower, very good. The Mayflower, very good. Okay, we do know the folklore. On the boat, before they got off, all the women were busy knitting and, making dinner and vacuuming and stuff. There were not vacuums back then. Very good. You called my bluff. Excellent job. What I said is meant to convey a kernel of truth. I mean, were they literally knitting or No, but what's the kernel of truth in there? What am I trying to get across to you?
Women weren't there.
They were there.
They were like behind.
That's right. They were off. They weren't making. I think what you meant was they weren't like in the room where this. Okay, very good. That's correct. All the men created this document, which I've seen. I've actually seen the actual Mayflower Compact. It's obviously several hundred years old. There was a tour, so it was at the X. It was kind of cool. It's about this big. It's not in good shape, but what do you expect? Anyway, it was called the Mayflower Compact. Mayflower Compact. There we go. This is an early constitution. This is, once we get on that land, how are we going to roll? What's the plan? How are we going to govern ourselves? And in that document, they came up with two big ideas. The first idea they came up with was majority rule. Okay, so Captain Obvious here. What's majority rule? If let's take a vote. All right, right now, let's take a vote. McDonald's or Subway?
Subway.
No. Subway. Back when I was younger, I helped coach volleyball, and we had a setter. Her name was Alicia, great player. But it bugged me how she said Subway. But to honor her, I vowed from now on, for the rest of my life, I will say Subway the way you say Subway. Well, actually, her daughter plays she's a freshman.
Claire.
Is that her name? Raleigh.
Wait. Oh, you're talking about Madison.
Maddie, yep. Maddie Raleigh. Her mom. I coached her mom at Subway. I don't know. It just bugged me, but I must say it. Is your hand in there?
No.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, voting now. If a bus showed up right there, we got on the bus and we're heading to lunch. McDonald's or Subway? All right. Raising your hands now for McDonald's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Revan. This could be kind of close. And Subway. You must vote. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Nice try. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Now, we are going to the Subway. Yes? Who voted for McDonald's? What are you going to have at Subway? Because you're going to Subway. Do you understand? Those of you who voted for McDonald's, you lost, so you're joining us. This is important. What I'm telling you, again, you might be thinking, well, yeah, duh. We had a vote. Those people lost. They have to join us where we voted for, okay? That is your understanding of democracy, right? In in about 230 years, okay, do the math. It's 1620. Add 240 to it. Yeah, that's about right. What? In 1860, the South will secede. And when the South secedes, there's several reasons. Slavery, of course, Lincoln was bad and all that stuff. But one of the main reasons that the South seceded was they said, no, that's not what democracy is. Democracy is those of you who voted for McDonald's, you're going to McDonald's. And those of you who voted for the Subway, you are going to the Subway. Also, I always put the in front of the Subway. You don't go to Subway, you go to the Subway. Try it. It's really fun. Also, I want to start a trend again. Okay? Nt. Nt. As in, no. Ask me if we can delay the test a week. All right, give it a try. Let's start something. Let's start something. Let's make this in the halls of Somerset. I want in 1 month to be walking through the halls and hear, and I'll be like, I've done it. Do you understand that the South says if you vote that way, that's your way. If we go this way, that's our way. In other words, we can secede. You Northerners, you can have your president. We'll have our president. That's the idea. Okay, anyway, back to this. And then consent of the governed. They're going to elect a governor or a mayor or something. Who is the boss of the governor? No. Look. Consent of the governed.
The people.
The people. What a big idea this is. Because, my friends, this is a rejection of all previous government doctrine. All previous government doctrine says, if you're here, you know who your boss is? Look up. So, the Lord's boss is the king. The king's boss is the pope. The pope's boss is Jesus. Or whatever. Okay? But this is saying, no. The governor's boss is us, the governed. We're your boss. You are the governor, we're the governed, but you govern because we granted you our consent. You govern because we gave you permission to govern. It was not the way that families work. Your dad doesn't say steak because you wanted it. I want steak, says Faza, at least in my house. Okay. Any questions here? Two big ideas that today we look at and say, well, yeah. But at that time, it's like, bah, what? Write that down. Bah dash what? And you know what it means. It's like, what? What? We're your boss, even though you're our boss, but we are? What? All right, back off, ladies. But this was governor number one. That is William Bradford. Yes, you're tempted. Check out that stash. And I want you to understand that his level of tolerance was very low. He is as intolerant as the king in England. Only here, he's the king. Not really, but you get it? He gets to decide. So over there, they're not welcomed. And over here, we don't welcome non-Puritans. That's intolerant. But again, what I'm trying to do is dispel this myth that over there they were picked on and then they came over here and they all let each other do whatever kind of religious worship. No. They were as intolerant here as they were intolerated over there.
It's like the bully, right?
The bully thing. Yep, you got it. Very good. That's it. No one else. How about that? By the way, this class is over at 9:15, so we have plenty of time. Very good. All right, let's attack a document, maybe two, from Zeus. Are you tired?
No.
We are on Native versus European culture. Yes? Remember, we skipped European relationship to Native Americans. I do invite you to look at those four documents as excellent fodder at what I mean is historical evidence. Phones, phones, See, she understood. Okay. Anyway, I invite you to take a look because there's some good stuff there. The cruelty of the Spanish toward the natives, including Columbus. There's some good stuff there. Okay, so feel free to use it. Let's just attack Zinn's point of view of native versus European culture. The basic question of this chunk of documents is, who had the superior culture between the Europeans and the natives? I'll let you kind of figure it out. So once again, let's do this. Let's have this half of the room reread the first Zinn document, Zinn page 1. And this half of the room, you will reread Zinn page 3. Both of them are addressing which culture is superior. And by the way, inherent in that is, as a result, which culture is inferior. If you're taller than me, that means I'm shorter than you. Ripping the Spanish culture is a way of saying the native culture is superior. You understand? Okay, read. Anyone need more time? Pretty straightforward. Yes? Okay, this side of the room. According to Zinn, who has a superior culture? Native Americans. Okay, very good. Why? What's the evidence that he is suggesting? They were friendly, kumbaya, we love you, right? They're gentle, they were remarkable, they believed in this thing called sharing. But what Zinn also does is rip the Spanish. He rips the Europeans. Why? What's wrong with the Europeans? Greedy, right? It's all about money. And you have this confusing infrastructure of popes and then kings, and it's all about money, and it's greedy and it's shallow. Meanwhile, the Indians are holding hands while birds flutter. Okay, and I'm not trying to mock it. I'm just giving you a metaphor. Okay. This side, what does Zinn have to say? Is he praising the natives or ripping the Europeans? Praising the natives. Why? Yeah, very good. That they had this agricultural system in place where they grew these crops, despite the fact, this is an interesting argument, and it goes something like this. Look what they accomplished despite the fact that they didn't have certain things. Iron, horses. They didn't have horses. They didn't have cows. And yet they were able to plant. Wow, that's an accomplishment. Now, somebody else might say, no, having those animals and as a result developing massive agriculture is the more advanced civilization. But this guy's saying, no, not having that stuff but accomplishing anyway, that's advanced. Think about this. This is a biological way of understanding the difference in the two arguments. What is the more advanced organism? The single cell organism or you? You have specialization with you, right? Certain parts of your body handle air intake. Other parts of your body handle food intake. Certain parts of your body do the thinking, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? You have specialization in your body. Is that more advanced? Or is the single cell organism that does all that with just one blob, is that more advanced? It depends, right? Is the one owner business that does the bookkeeping and then gets in the car and drives and picks up the garbage himself, is that the more advanced business? Or is the corporation that has offices and you do this and you do that, we're going to separate, is that the more advanced business? It's really up to you to decide which is the more advanced way to do things. And by the way, what did I just do? I synthesized, right? If you get the difference in business organization and things, kind of figuring out which one is more advanced, then you get the argument. It's synthesis. Okie dokie. Okay, I want everyone to just calm down a little. Okay, that's enough of that. Finally, the moment you've all been waiting for, I'm sure. Okay. Please, right now, as you get this, don't freak out. It's easier than you think. I promise. Now, if Mr. Lindenberg were here, he and I would have chatted mucho by now, because this is something that his class, how many of you are in that class? Okay. This is something that he and I have worked with together. His class would be the one reading it. I just haven't gotten a chance to talk to Dog Lady yet. Oh, sweet lady, and I love that dog. It's so friendly. But I do think it is within your right to ask her today, like, are we going to be doing this paper at all in that class? What are you doing in that class?
We're learning grammar.
You're learning what?
Thesis
Grammar?
He taught us about list commas the other day.
Awesome.
Yep. Yeah.
All right.
We're learning about thesis and topic sentences.
You are. Okay. Hopefully, oh, I'm sorry. We passed it. Hopefully, her teaching of thesis statements and topic sentences closely matches what you're learning in here. Please, I hope.
Yeah, they're like.
Even went over lattes and pepper.
It's Lindenberg speaking. We sort of cried
They're
that.
like.
Yeah.
They have like an opinion and stuff like that.
Oh, that's all right. Oh. Anyway, are we all familiar with the Battle of Lexington and Concord to some degree? You've heard of it. It's considered the start of the Revolutionary War, when the Americans attempted to and then successfully broke away from Britain and became an independent nation, right? It's the first battle. But there's always been this question about who shot first at that battle. Of course, the British say, well, the Americans shot first, and then we acted in self-defense. And the Americans say, nah, the British shot first. And what you have in your hands are the actual accounts of the people that were there and who shared their version of what happened. There was an inquiry, an official inquiry afterwards, where people were interviewed under oath sometimes, not under oath at other times. And this sort of leads to where we're going here. The people that are in this, if you just kind of page through it, you'll see that we have a rendition of what happened from somebody named Thomas Fenniston, and then somebody named Lieutenant John Barker, and then somebody named John Bateman, and there are 7 of them. There are 7 people who tell what they know about Wahapa. What you have to kind of figure out, because I'm going to assign each one of you one of these. Now, what I could do is have all of you read all 7. But I don't want to do that. And so I'm going to assign each one of you to do one. But you know what your end of the bargain is? You actually do it, right? You actually read the one that I'm assigning to you. Now, the good news is that there are more than 7 of you in here, which means there will be other people who will be also reading your same version. And I will soon, let's see, if we could do this Friday. Let's have this done by Friday, okay? On Friday, you will sit with your fellow people who read the same version as you, and you will agree about answering questions 1 through, where are the questions? At the end, page 6. You see questions A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. That's 8 questions. Answer those 8 questions, and only those 8 questions, for your person by Friday. Okay? So pretty simple. Okay? Keep in mind, some of these people are talking as if it happened last week, because that's when they're interviewed, like a week later. Some of them have been interviewed about 20 years later. Can we trust the version of someone who's telling it from memory from decades ago? Some of them are under oath. Some of them are being aggressively interrogated. Can we trust what they're saying more if they're under oath than if they're not under oath? Some of them are British and some of them are American. If there's a British guy who says the American shot first or an American that says the British shot first, is that credible? Or do we say, well, of course they say the other side shot first. One of these people is a British officer who says the British shot first. Does that mean that person is more credible? These are the questions that are being asked of you. Okay, so I'm just going to number you off 1 through 7, and then I'll say, all right, who's what? Ready? 1, 2. You're 2. 2. 2. You're 2. 2. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, Gracie. 3, 4, 5. Okay. Ones are Thomas Fessenden. Well, it says what? Just look for your number. Good gravy. All right, it says document 1, document 2, document 3. Find your document number. Answer the 8 questions for Friday. Okay. That's it. I'm done. The rest of the hour to work on IKEA or work on this or think about your paragraph, which is due tomorrow. And Rachie, hit it. Hit the ball. You know that when Stevie was serving to their tall girl, she was getting so frustrated because we went on that long run, and she kept looking at her coach like, "Why do they keep serving it at me?" And I was like, "Keep serving it." Keep serving it. Keep serving it.
It's from Artful. Oh my gosh, that was so weird this morning. By itself right now. I hate that when you can feel it like an hour after. Okay, but those that felt so wrong. I couldn't bend my leg to do the jumps because it was moving so hard.